What's up, guys? So in this video I install the TB intake system for the 132 big bore kit, and then I install the Piranha exhaust system. I had a little issue with the intake system. I did install it correctly, so this is just kind of a disclaimer. This video is to show you how to install that system. It did go on okay, but I had issues with the bike running after, so it didn't run very well. It ran on high RPMs, but like the low RPMs and idle, it just wouldn't idle. So I tried everything to adjust it. It just doesn't respond to any adjustments. So I ended up taking the intake system back off the bike and putting the stock one back on, and the bike works fine now. So that's just something to think about. I figured I'd put this in the top of the video just so you don't continue watching for nothing. But if you do want to install this TB intake system on your bike, keep on watching, because I do get it on there and it does go on fairly well. I had a little bit of issue with the cable, but you'll see later on what it was. It wasn't too bad. I'll make a separate video of this thing running with the 132 big bore kit and the Piranha exhaust system. But other than that, I just wanted to let you guys know what I encountered through this video. So last time we left off with the big bore kit. So now I've got to get the intake put onto it. So I got to get all the fuel lines and air lines and everything back on. I'm gonna take this cable out because the new carburetor that comes with the kit has its own choke on it. So this will be the new fuel and intake system. So I've got part of it on the bike. Now I'm just trying to figure out which way I'm gonna do this. It's backwards, it's gotta go the other way. So you end up having to take off your air box, and you gotta take out your choke cable, and you're gonna do your throttle cable too. So it comes with all that, comes with the new air filter and everything. So I'll start stripping that stuff off the bike and start putting this new stuff on. Just a quick disclaimer about this is you're definitely going to end up with some extra stock parts laying around, because I got the air box off. I got there's a little tube, a little vent tube that came from the old carburetor that I had to take out. I got the case breather hose right here that used to plug into the air box, but I'm not sure. I'll do a little research. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with that. That just needs to breathe, so you might just cover it up with something like a piece of cloth or something like that, just so it doesn't don't get debris in there. And then you'll go with your regular fuel line. So for this part of it, this pipe is gonna face that way towards the left side of the bike if you're sitting on it, and it's held on by this bolt on the right side and that stud on the left side. So I'll get that out. So that'll go all the way in. Careful not to drop anything in the intake. Put cloth or whatever in there if you need to. And you could probably put, if you have metric nuts sitting around, you can probably put a couple of nuts on it and double nut it and tighten it in there. Other than that, I'm not sure how you would go about it. You don't really want to use anything on here, or of course the threads. But if you have anything metric around, just use the double nut technique and tighten two nuts together and then tighten it in. And it's probably not a horrible idea to use a little bit of never seize on the threads when you put this in. One thing I did forget to mention, I'll mention quick, when you're working with these studs, the way you want to put them in, generally, you'll see this is flat here, and this side is kind of like rounded. Usually the round side goes in the threads inside of whatever you're trying to fasten something to. So just keep that in mind. Usually the round side is down inside. So I did manage to get the stud in, no problem. I did use a little bit of never seize. It's probably a good idea to wipe the never seize off, because there's a gasket that has to go on here. And just give it a little wipe with some brake clean. I did end up using the double nut technique and just tighten it in nice and easy. You don't want to tighten it too much because it's going down into the case. So you don't want to tighten it in and prove how strong you are and end up splitting your case. So after that, you want to put the gasket on, and then there's a plastic piece that goes in, and then another gasket, and then your intake piping. And then after that, we'll move on to the carburetor. And then we got this piece on now with the supplied bolts that TB sends you. You can just put them in there, and I don't think there's any kind of a gasket goes in here. It's pretty rubbery, so I think it'll seal just with the bolts that they give you. If it doesn't, this would be the first thing I would check if I have an issue with when you let off the throttle and it doesn't idle down right away. It kind of just keeps idle and then slowly comes down. This would be the first spot I'd check. You can spray a bit of brake clean around here, and if it idles up the engine, then you know you got an air leak somewhere. But it seems rubbery enough. We can trust it without putting a gasket or silicone in there. We'll try it out anyway. All right, well that went on pretty good. So now what you might want to do before you go any further is just back this off a little bit, because next is putting the carburetor in. So what I'll usually do when I stick these carburetors in, I'll do a little bit of grease around here, just so it's easier to wiggle in there, because it looks like there's not a whole lot of room in here. So I'll have to try and maneuver that in somehow. So I ran into a little issue here with the fuel valve. So when you put the air filter on, your lever for the fuel filter is going to hit against this. And I guess you could run it with the fuel partially on, maybe that might work, but maybe that's what I might try. But other than that, the only other fix I can think of is just zip cutting this lever off, and you'd have to use a set of pliers or something to turn the fuel on and off. So I'll try partially on for now and see if that runs the bike okay. There it is, carb's all installed and everything. Like I said, I don't like that, but I think when I talk to my buddy later, I'll see if I can pull the carb off quickly, zip cut this off, and then you just have to use it, set of pliers with it to turn the fuel on and off. Is what it is. It's what happens when you're doing aftermarket stuff to your bikes. Things don't always line up. It's a good idea to look on the internet at forums for this stuff, because I did end up looking on after, unfortunately, and guys are having a lot of problems with these levers. So when they're in the on position, it's bumping on this filter, and it's actually falling off. So like I said, you'd have to either run it in reserve all the time, or you run it partially on, but I'd rather run full on. So when I talk to my buddy that owns the bike, I'll see if I can just cut this off and then be done with it, and then it'll be no problem just to get a set of pliers in there and turn it. So now I'll turn my attention to the throttle at the top here. This bolt here is stripped out, so I'm gonna have to drill it out. I have a bolt kit anyway, so I can replace these bolts no problem. So I'll take the throttle housing apart and then put the new cable in. So I'm just trying to get this throttle cable in that they supplied with the kit, but it doesn't seem to be working. There's not enough cable poking out here. So when you install everything, that slide in there, by the time you have your throttle hooked up, it's about half open, so that's not gonna work. So I'm gonna have to pull the cable out, and I'm gonna have to find a way to take some of the armor off and shorten the armor so that I can get more cable there to play with, so we can get some slack in there. So what the plan here is I'm going to take my little Dremel tool, and I'm going to cut this way with the collar, and I'm going to flip it over and cut the collar this way again so that I can pry it open and get this thing here to go inside down here a bit, so I can cut a bit out and then shorten the armor up so that I get more cable, because that's the problem, is I'm running out of when this is in the carburetor and it's sitting with the spring tension, there's not enough room over here to get it into your throttle housing and operate correctly. So I gotta make some room here. Alright, so I got that collar cut off there, and now I'm going to, all you gotta do really is just, this is wound, so I gotta unwind it till about here, and then I'll put it back on the bike and see how the throttle operates, and if I have to take more off, then so be it. But I don't want to take too much off right now, because then I won't be able to adjust it the other way. Alright, so I got the cable cut down a little bit. I do not recommend doing that, because that was not the easiest thing to do, but I'm going to put it back on the bike and see if I get my throttle operational. Alright, well, I didn't quite take enough off there, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to go back again and take everything apart and shorten that cable armor up a little bit more, because the slide is not closing all the way. It's just a crack open, so I'm going to take a little bit more off, and hopefully that'll do the trick. Alright, so we got a working throttle now, so that extra little bit I took off did the trick there. So now you can see the slide in there. It used to stay right about there with the cable they sent me. I had to take I don't know, about 1.5 inches off the armor to get it to shut all the way. So I don't know if that was something that maybe I just sent the wrong part. I don't think I did anything wrong there. I had to modify it though, so something to consider when you're ordering these kits. We got the air filter back on now, and so as you can hear, everything's working good now. So now I'm going to move on to the exhaust system and put that Piranha exhaust system back on. Okay, so next up is the exhaust. I got the bench cleaned up a little bit here, and this is a Piranha exhaust system, and we're going to throw it on the bike right now. So the bolts that the nuts that Piranha sent are completely wrong. They're way too small. So I do a side by side with the. See if I can make it focus on them here. So that's the stock one, and that's the one that was sent with the exhaust system. So it's a good example of why you always keep your old parts. there it is, the Piranha exhaust system installed. Thumbs up to this system for ease of install. It was refreshing to install something easy rather than that intake system there that gave me a bit of a headache. But the only thing about this one, it comes with a crush washer here, so you can seal the exhaust in. That I installed first and then put the pipe onto it and then tighten the bolts up. The only thing is the bolts, or the nuts that I got sent, the mounting nuts, they were the wrong size. So make sure if you install one of these systems, you keep your stock nuts for putting the exhaust back on. Okay, so I had to run to the store for some oil there. This bike takes, says 1 liter of 10W30 or 10W40. I just went with 10W30. And it's just 1 liter, pour it in there, and then be able to fire it up, see how it sounds. All right, well, I got the oil back into it. I don't see any leaks underneath there. So now it's just time to turn the fuel on, I guess. Well, as good as I can, I suppose. Yeah, I can see that being a problem. I'll keep that there for now. I think I'm just gonna try and convince my buddy to just cut that right off, and we'll have to turn the fuel on and off with a set of pliers, but that's okay. So hopefully the carb's got some fuel in it now, and I'll kick it over and see what it does.